The morning of Hannah Reed's wedding is bathed in soft, golden light, filtering through the sheer curtains of her suite. The quiet hum of the hotel is punctuated by the occasional clatter of makeup brushes, distant laughter of bridesmaids, and the rhythmic click of high heels on polished floors. Hannah stands before the full-length mirror, her fingers trembling slightly as they fasten the delicate lace buttons of her ivory gown. The dress is breathtaking, hugging her in all the right places, a vision of elegance and grace, yet despite the beauty of the moment, a subtle unease threads through her chest. She inhales deeply, trying to steady herself, reminding herself that today is meant to be the happiest day of her life. The flowers are perfectly arranged, the invitations flawless, and the guests are slowly arriving, all signs pointing to a seamless celebration. Yet her mind keeps flickering to Jason, her fiancé, whose demeanor that morning has been oddly distant. He greets her with a polite smile, but it lacks warmth. His laughter is forced, his eyes avoid hers, and his touch, once comforting, feels mechanical. Small inconsistencies, missed glances, fidgeting hands gnaw at her subconscious. The tension is almost imperceptible to anyone else, hidden beneath the veneer of perfection, but for Hannah, it is tangible. The day is progressing as expected outwardly, yet beneath the surface, the calm is fragile, like a thin layer of ice over turbulent water. This quiet unease, paired with the outward perfection, sets the stage for a shocking disruption. The contrast between the meticulous beauty of the wedding preparations and the subtle cracks in Jason's demeanor primes the audience to sense that something is amiss, creating anticipation, a latent anxiety that something significant and devastating is about to happen. Every detail, from the shimmer of her dress to the soft morning light, feels charged with foreshadowing. As the ceremony begins, the air in the chapel is thick with anticipation and excitement. Guests sit poised in their seats, faces radiant with expectation, smartphones ready to capture every moment. Hannah steps forward, heart fluttering wildly, clutching the bouquet as if it were an anchor to calm her nerves. The music swells, and she catches Jason's eye at the end of the aisle. For a moment, everything feels suspended in time. She sees the man she loves, the man she trusted, moving toward her, and a wave of joy floods through her. But then, something inexplicable happens. Jason, halfway down the aisle, halts abruptly. His eyes, once full of affection, are now cold, distant, almost unreadable. A flicker of uncertainty, or is it fear, crosses his face. He glances past her, as if noticing something beyond the crowd, then, without a word, turns and walks away. The silence that follows is deafening, pierced only by gasps, murmurs, and the soft, unsteady notes of the music. Hannah is frozen, her mind racing to comprehend what just occurred. The audience's perception shifts instantly from a scene of joy to one of chaos. Some guests whisper, others exchange shocked glances, and a few nervously lift their phones to record the moment. The contrast between her radiant bridal composure and Jason's abrupt abandonment amplifies the emotional impact, creating a visceral sense of humiliation. In seconds, the entire narrative of the day, the story she had been building in her mind for months, crumbles. The camera of her imagination, so focused on a future of love and happiness, suddenly captures only confusion and betrayal. Hannah's pulse races, her vision blurs, and the applause she had imagined is replaced by whispers of disbelief. The emotional hook is immediate. The audience experiences her shock, heartbreak, and vulnerability, feeling the sting of public humiliation as if it were their own. This moment is meticulously crafted to grip the viewer's empathy, drawing them into her emotional turmoil before the story even fully begins. Jason's disappearance transforms what should have been a joyous occasion into the epicenter of Hannah's worst fears. She stands alone at the altar, her bouquet trembling in her hands. As all eyes remain fixed upon her, a mixture of pity, confusion, and silent judgment filling the room. The whispers of the guests sliced through her like cold wind, a painful reminder that trust can fracture in an instant, and the life she meticulously built around love and loyalty can crumble without warning. Her mind races with questions. Why did he leave? Did he ever truly love her? Was it something she did or something intrinsic to him that she could never understand? The uncertainty gnaws at her, compounding the initial shock with a deep, wrenching despair. Every aspect of her identity that relied on this union, her sense of self-worth, her understanding of love, her belief in a shared future, is suddenly destabilized. In this moment, the narrative stakes are introduced with brutal clarity. It's no longer a question of a wedding gone wrong. It's a question of personal betrayal, of heartbreak witnessed publicly, of a life pivoting unexpectedly under the weight of someone else's decision. The audience, now fully invested, feels the dual tension of immediate humiliation and the looming question of how she will navigate the aftermath. Every element of her world, the supportive friends, the flawless planning, the anticipation of lifelong partnership, is overshadowed by the painful uncertainty of Jason's actions. The scene masterfully sets up the emotional journey to come, one of resilience, self-discovery, and eventual empowerment. The audience is left aching with her pain, intrigued by the mystery of his departure, and compelled to follow her story to understand not only the reason for Jason's betrayal, but also how Hannah will reclaim her life from the ruins of this day. In essence, the opening incident encapsulates the collision of personal tragedy and public spectacle. Establishing a powerful emotional anchor for the story, Hannah Reid's life, before the unraveling of her wedding day, was a delicate balance of dedication, loyalty, and carefully maintained routines. At 28, she had carved out a stable existence in the bustling world of event planning, a career that allowed her to pour her meticulous attention to detail and organizational prowess into creating memorable experiences for others. Her professional life was demanding, with long hours spent coordinating weddings, corporate galas, and charity events, yet Hannah thrived in it, finding satisfaction in the smiles of her clients and the perfection of every detail. Outside of work, her personal life was anchored by close, meaningful relationships. Maya, her best friend since college, was a confidant and sounding board, someone who knew Hannah's insecurities, dreams, and the quiet fear of abandonment that had lingered since her parents' divorce when she was 12. Linda, her mother, provided both emotional support and practical advice, a grounding presence in Hannah's whirlwind life. The divorce had left a subtle but persistent ache, making Hannah fiercely loyal in her relationships and sometimes overly trusting, as if she clung to attachments to protect herself from repeating that childhood loneliness. Even as she poured time, energy, and money into planning her own wedding, she did so with the expectation that love, as she understood it, was reciprocal, unwavering, and safe. She envisioned the day not merely as a celebration, but as the culmination of years of hope, sacrifice, and devotion, a tangible proof that her life had aligned perfectly with her dreams. The careful curation of her world, both personal and professional, underscored her vulnerability. Hannah's identity was deeply entwined with her relationships and her ability to orchestrate order, making the looming betrayal all the more catastrophic. Jason Miller, on the surface, was the quintessential charming partner, handsome, articulate, and seemingly attentive. Yet beneath the carefully cultivated exterior lay a complexity that few saw. Ambitious to the point of obsession, he measured success and control over his career, his surroundings, and subtly, those closest to him. His charm often masked a more controlling nature. Small decisions in the relationship were guided by his preferences, and disagreements were deftly redirected to minimize conflict on his terms. His secrecy was another hallmark of his personality. Jason maintained a strained, often contentious relationship with his family, particularly his father, whose disapproval of Hannah and their impending marriage he navigated with evasion and calculated deflection. While Hannah believed in his honesty and transparency, Jason's inner life was guarded, compartmentalized, and sometimes manipulative, leaving cracks in the trust she had invested so wholly in him. Even as he participated in the wedding planning and public displays of affection, subtle behaviors hinted at distance, missed calls, abrupt changes in mood, or vague explanations for absences. To an outsider, these might appear inconsequential, but to someone as attuned and trusting as Hannah, they were quiet alarms she often chose to ignore, rationalizing them in favor of her vision of the perfect marriage. Jason's duality, a public persona of charm and private tendencies of control and secrecy, creates the tension that drives the emotional conflict. His traits contrast sharply with Hannah's openness and loyalty, setting the stage for betrayal and highlighting the audience's need to root for her. Resilience against someone who is outwardly magnetic but inwardly unpredictable. The stakes for Hannah were enormous, both emotionally and practically. She had invested not just her heart, but significant financial resources into what she believed would be the happiest day of her life. Every detail, from the flowers and catering to the venue and dress, was a reflection of her vision, a labor of love and a testament to the trust she placed in Jason to share this life with her. Subtle warnings had emerged over the weeks leading up to the wedding. Canceled calls, evasive responses, and occasional emotional distance that she, in her desire to believe in their bond, minimized or rationalized. Yet now, faced with the reality of Jason's abrupt abandonment, these signs were painfully evident, exposing the chasm between perception and truth. For the audience, this juxtaposition cultivates empathy. Viewers recognize Hannah's heartbreak as not merely a romantic disappointment, but a profound rupture of trust, identity, and expectation. Her vulnerability, amplified by her inherent goodness and loyalty, makes the audience emotionally invested in her journey. The collapse of a life she thought secure her dreams, her trust, her carefully orchestrated world elicits both sympathy and a compelling curiosity. How will she navigate the devastation, reclaim agency, and rebuild? This section positions Hannah not merely as a victim of circumstance, but as a deeply relatable, multidimensional character whose pain is authentic and whose struggle resonates universally. By highlighting her internal stakes and the ignored warnings, the story ensures that the audience is fully aligned with her emotional journey, rooting for her triumph even before the narrative truly unfolds, creating a powerful foundation for the subsequent arcs of betrayal, discovery, and personal empowerment. The shock of Jason walking away from the altar reverberates through Hannah's life like a thunderclap, but the full magnitude of betrayal hits later that evening. Alone in her apartment, still in her wedding dress, she scrolls through her phone and notices subtle irregularities she had previously dismissed. Cryptic text notifications from unknown numbers, fleeting glimpses of messages on Jason's social media accounts, and inconsistencies in his stories about late nights at work. A friend of Jason's casually drops a comment about him and Samantha from the office, a phrase Hannah initially wants to ignore, chalking it up to gossip. But then the messages start appearing screenshots of flirtatious texts, photos of Jason laughing intimately with his coworker at bars and company events, timestamps overlapping with dates he claimed to be working late or at meetings. The evidence, once pieced together, forms an undeniable narrative. Jason had been hiding an affair for months. Each piece of evidence lands like a hammer blow, not just to her trust, but to the entire foundation of her life she had built around him. The public humiliation at the altar now transforms into a private, intimate horror. Every memory she had of their relationship, the whispered promises, romantic gestures, shared dreams, suddenly carries the sting of deception. The betrayal isn't just an act of infidelity. It's a revelation that everything she believed to be true was, in part, a carefully curated illusion. Hannah's world, which had seemed orderly and secure, fractures in an instant, and the audience feels the staggering weight of her discovery, empathizing with her shock, disbelief, and rising panic. The emotional aftermath is both immediate and overwhelming. Alone, Hannah experiences a storm of emotions that she cannot easily categorize. Anger courses through her veins, hot and sharp, as she imagines Jason laughing, lying, and betraying her behind her back. Confusion mingles with sorrow. How could someone she trusted implicitly manipulate her so completely? The humiliation she endured publicly at the altar now seeps into her private life, compounding the shame with a sense of personal failure. She questions every decision she made, every detail of the relationship, and every moment she overlooked subtle signs of deceit. Her family and closest friends, once a source of support, look on in stunned sympathy, making her acutely aware of the social dimension of her betrayal. Even Maya, her lifelong confidant, cannot fully erase the sting, though she offers comfort and perspective. Hannah begins to spiral inward, wrestling with self-doubt. Was she naive? Was she too trusting? Could she have prevented this? Yet, amid the despair, there is also a quiet, simmering anger, a refusal to be entirely consumed. The reader witnesses Hannah's pain intimately, experiencing the layers of betrayal, the broken trust in love, the violation of her family's faith in their union, and the societal embarrassment of being abandoned before dozens of witnesses. This intricate emotional fallout ensures that the audience not only understands her suffering, but also becomes invested in her next steps, rooting for her resilience even as her world appears to collapse around her. Amid the devastation, Hannah's core traits, her loyalty, meticulousness, and strength begin to assert themselves, planting the seeds of empowerment that will drive her forward. Though she feels shattered, she refuses to let Jason's betrayal define her life. Each moment of clarity strengthens her resolve. She will confront him, seek the truth, and reclaim the agency that his actions attempted to strip away. The affair, once merely a source of pain, becomes a catalyst, propelling her into action rather than paralysis. She starts documenting the evidence systematically, confronting friends and acquaintances for insight, and reflecting on the warnings she had previously ignored. Every action is fueled by a combination of righteous anger and a desire for justice, creating a narrative momentum that moves her from victimhood toward self-determination. The reader sees a transformation begin, subtle but undeniable, as Hannah channels her heartbreak into purpose. Her journey is no longer just about uncovering Jason's deception. It is about reclaiming her identity, her dignity, and her future. The narrative seeds of empowerment are sown here. The betrayal becomes the impetus for growth, the turning point from despair to determination. Through this detailed, inciting incident, the story not only heightens emotional stakes, but also firmly establishes Hannah as a protagonist whose pain and subsequent actions compel the audience's empathy and investment, ensuring that readers are eager to follow her journey toward confrontation, truth, and ultimate self-reclamation. Jason's betrayal quickly sends shockwaves through Hannah's personal and social world, creating layers of complications that intensify her emotional turmoil. Friends who once seemed neutral begin to take sides. Their loyalties split between her and Jason, leaving Hannah feeling increasingly isolated. Some mutual acquaintances awkwardly avoid her, unsure how to address the public humiliation she endured, while others subtly question the circumstances, unintentionally deepening her self-doubt. Social media exacerbates the situation as snippets of the altar incident, rumors about Jason's affair, and screenshots of messages circulate widely. The digital world becomes a constant reminder of her humiliation. Notifications trigger anxiety, each new comment or shared post a fresh sting. Work relationships strain as well. Colleagues, some of whom are mutual friends with Jason, navigate the gossip carefully, creating subtle tension and mistrust in professional interactions. Every social interaction, whether at work, family gatherings, or casual outings, feels charged, as though she is perpetually under scrutiny. Hannah finds herself hyper-aware of public perception, wondering who believes her, who doubts her, and who is silently judging her reactions. These external pressures compound the internal shock of betrayal, forcing her to navigate not only emotional devastation, but also social minefields that seem to multiply by the day. The combination of private heartbreak and public scrutiny intensifies the stakes, isolating her while simultaneously drawing the reader deeper into her emotional experience. It is this intricate web of social and relational complications that lays the foundation for the next stage of conflict, highlighting the vulnerability and resilience that define Hannah as a protagonist. In the midst of mounting external pressures, Hannah seeks refuge in her closest confidants, Maya and her mother, Linda. These moments of emotional grounding provide a counterbalance to the chaos, allowing readers to connect deeply with her inner struggles. Late-night conversations with Maya offer a mix of catharsis and strategy. Hannah confides the rawest truths of her anger, humiliation, and lingering love for Jason, sometimes weeping, sometimes seething with fury. Maya listens, validates, and gently challenges Hannah to consider her own needs, reminding her that seeking closure and asserting boundaries are acts of self-respect rather than weakness. With her mother, the dynamic shifts to a blend of comfort and pragmatic guidance. Linda offers perspective, reminding Hannah of her worth and the resilience she has demonstrated throughout life, particularly in navigating her parents' divorce and professional challenges. These intimate scenes explore the nuances of Hannah's internal struggle, the oscillation between a desire for closure, a faint hope of forgiveness, and the deep, instinctive knowledge that trust once broken may never fully return. Her mind becomes a battlefield of conflicting impulses, weighing emotional impulses against rational reflection. Should she confront Jason again? Should she try to forgive or simply sever ties? Every decision feels monumental, a reflection of her values and self-perception. By highlighting these internal conflicts through authentic dialogue, personal reflection, and emotional vulnerability, the narrative deepens the reader's empathy, ensuring that every choice Hannah wrestles with is felt viscerally, setting the stage for the heightened tension and practical challenges to come. As Hannah begins to confront Jason and sift through the aftermath, the betrayal reveals tangible, practical consequences that escalate her stakes beyond emotional devastation. Documents, receipts, and financial records uncover a hidden layer of Jason's manipulation. He had signed joint leases in her name, purchased expensive gifts with their combined funds, and initiated investment plans that legally implicate her financially. What once seemed like romantic gestures now feel like traps, entwining her life with his in ways she never anticipated. The discovery of these obligations injects urgency and anxiety into her actions, forcing her to confront the reality that reclaiming her life may require not just emotional resilience, but strategic, legal, and financial navigation. Her confrontation with Jason escalates in intensity as well. He employs manipulation, deflection, and subtle gaslighting, attempting to twist the narrative and cast doubt on her perceptions. Every interaction leaves Hannah both enraged and unsettled, questioning what she thought she knew about him and herself. The emotional stakes are heightened by this intersection of betrayal and practical entanglement, emphasizing that the consequences of infidelity are not confined to heartbreak alone. Readers feel the full weight of her predicament. She is not only mourning the collapse of a trusted relationship, but also grappling with the real world, ramifications of shared obligations, social scrutiny, and the challenge of untangling her life from someone who wielded trust as a weapon. The combination of emotional, social, and practical tension drives the narrative forward, ensuring that Hannah's journey is compelling, urgent, and deeply resonant. After weeks of turmoil and investigation, Hannah finally uncovers the underlying truth behind Jason's betrayal. Through a combination of intercepted messages, financial documents, and confidential conversations with his coworkers and family, she realizes that the affair was merely a symptom of a larger, more complex issue. Jason had been struggling with a life he felt unprepared for: a marriage, emotional commitment, and the intertwining of finances and responsibilities that Hannah had trusted him with. The affair, which initially seemed to be driven by lust or deceit, was in reality a convenient escape route from his perceived obligations. The revelation cuts sharply because it reframes the betrayal. It wasn't entirely about infidelity, but about Jason's inability to face accountability, his desire to control the narrative by framing the blame, and his avoidance of personal growth. Hannah processes this new understanding with a mix of clarity and disbelief. Anger now intertwines with pity. Yet pity is fleeting because it doesn't excuse the public humiliation or the manipulation she endured. Her mind races as she pieces together the moments that, in hindsight, signaled his avoidance: late nights at the office, evasive texts, sudden irritability. This deeper insight strengthens her resolve. She recognizes that Jason's actions were never about her inadequacy, but about his limitations. The audience experiences a dual catharsis in this moment. The truth offers comprehension, reducing confusion, but it also heightens the emotional intensity as they understand the calculated nature of his exit and the premeditated ways he attempted to shape the narrative. This revelation shifts the story from mere heartbreak to a complex study of human flaws, laying the foundation for Hannah's empowerment and the climactic confrontation that will follow. The narrative reaches its emotional peak during a tense public confrontation at a high-profile company event where both Hannah and Jason are present. Tension is palpable. Colleagues, friends, and acquaintances form a silent audience, sensing the undercurrent of drama even before words are exchanged. Jason, sensing his control slipping, attempts to manipulate the situation publicly, deflecting blame with charm and subtle insinuations designed to paint Hannah as overreacting or misjudging him. But Hannah, fortified by weeks of reflection, support from Maya and her mother, and meticulous preparation, refuses to be intimidated. Every word she utters is deliberate, measured, and infused with the authority of truth. She exposes his betrayals without descending into hysteria, presenting evidence calmly, recounting moments of duplicity, and articulating the personal and financial consequences he left in his wake. The audience witnesses her transformation from a hurt and bewildered bride to a woman who commands attention through dignity and composure. Her emotional strength is mirrored in the reactions of those around her. Colleagues nod in understanding, whispers of shock ripple through the crowd, and Jason's attempts at deflection falter. This confrontation is not just about accusation. It is Hannah reclaiming narrative control, asserting her agency, and signaling that she will not be diminished by his actions. The dramatic tension in this scene grips the audience, blending suspense, anticipation, and emotional resonance as they experience the satisfaction of truth triumphing over deception. The aftermath of the confrontation brings a profound emotional release, both for Hannah and the audience. As the crowd absorbs the gravity of her revelations, Hannah allows herself to feel the full spectrum of emotions she had suppressed: anger at the betrayal, sadness at the loss of trust, and frustration over the public humiliation she endured. But rather than remaining captive to these emotions, she channels them into a declaration of independence. In an intimate yet powerful moment, she articulates her commitment to herself, to rebuild her life on her own terms, free from the constraints of deceit and manipulation. Her voice, once trembling with uncertainty, now resonates with clarity and resolve, symbolizing the emotional climax of her arc. The audience experiences a roller coaster of feelings. The sting of betrayal is juxtaposed with the cathartic satisfaction of justice, followed by the uplift of witnessing genuine empowerment. The scene underscores the narrative's thematic core. Personal strength arises not from avoiding pain, but from confronting it with courage and dignity. Hannah's journey, culminating in this public and personal reckoning, leaves readers and viewers with a sense of completion and inspiration, rooting for her future while reflecting on the complex dynamics of trust, accountability, and self-respect. The climax transforms what began as humiliation into triumph, ensuring that the emotional resonance lingers, leaving the audience both shaken by the depth of betrayal and inspired by the resilience of the human spirit. In the aftermath of her public and private betrayals, Hannah begins the painstaking yet transformative process of rebuilding her life. The first step is cutting ties with toxic relationships, both with Jason and with acquaintances who only amplified her humiliation or failed to provide authentic support. She reassesses her friendships and professional contacts, letting go of those whose loyalty was conditional or shallow. Simultaneously, she invests energy into her personal growth and career. Hannah throws herself into her event planning work with renewed vigor, taking on challenging projects that push her creativity and leadership skills. Her dedication earns admiration from clients and colleagues alike, and she gradually rebuilds the sense of competence and self-respect that Jason's betrayal had threatened to erode. Beyond her professional achievements, Hannah prioritizes relationships that truly matter. Time with her best friend Maya, quiet evenings with her mother Linda, and reconnecting with family members she had distanced herself from all nurture her emotional resilience. Through these deliberate choices, she establishes boundaries that protect her well-being, proving to herself that she is capable of thriving independently. The narrative emphasizes the slow, intentional steps Hannah takes, reinforcing that empowerment is not instant but cultivated through conscious decisions. Readers witness her reclaiming agency over her life, feeling her growth both emotionally and practically. Every small victory, completing a demanding project, hosting a gathering with loved ones, or simply asserting herself in previously intimidating situations, builds the momentum that carries her from despair to self-sufficiency. This rebuilding phase is critical because it grounds her empowerment in tangible actions, showing that recovery is rooted in choice, focus, and inner strength rather than external validation. One of the most significant markers of Hannah's transformation is her decision to reclaim events and projects that were once tied to Jason, transforming symbols of past betrayal into instruments of her own empowerment. A key example is a charity gala she and Jason had originally planned together. Rather than abandoning it or letting it become a bitter reminder, Hannah takes full control, curating every aspect with her own vision and leadership. Invitations, decor, program details, and speeches are all orchestrated by her, reflecting her personality, values, and hard-earned autonomy. The public nature of the event amplifies the symbolic victory. Attendees, including mutual friends, colleagues, and community members, witness Hannah's competence, grace, and independence firsthand. She does not seek revenge or public humiliation of Jason. Instead, her triumph lies in the quiet assertion of her dignity and the visible realization of her capabilities. The gala becomes a metaphorical stage for her personal growth, where once she was defined by betrayal and humiliation, now she defines herself through action, creativity, and moral authority. This act allows Hannah to reclaim narrative control, transforming painful memories into a showcase of resilience. By asserting ownership over what was once entwined with Jason, she demonstrates that empowerment does not require retaliation but emerges from confidence, decisiveness, and authenticity. Readers experience the satisfaction of seeing a protagonist not only survive but flourish, reinforcing the story's thematic core that personal strength is cultivated through reclamation, purpose, and self-respect. Hannah's journey culminates in an emotional and psychological transformation that brings closure and self-awareness. The girl who once stood at the altar, abandoned and publicly humiliated, is now a woman who understands the depths of her resilience, the importance of discernment in relationships, and the value of self-reliance. Through deliberate actions, introspection, and support from genuine connections, she has evolved from vulnerability to empowerment. Her anger, sorrow, and self-doubt, once overwhelming, are now acknowledged, processed, and transformed into clarity and strength. Hannah's narrative arc demonstrates that true victory is internal. It is measured not by revenge or by the downfall of others, but by the reclamation of one's dignity, confidence, and life direction. She now moves forward with intention, making choices that honor her values, setting boundaries that protect her well-being, and pursuing ambitions without fear of past failures. Symbolic acts, like reclaiming the charity event, punctuate her growth, but it is the internal consolidation of self-awareness that truly marks her triumph. Readers witness the full spectrum of emotional evolution. Heartbreak gives way to reflection, betrayal to understanding, and humiliation to empowerment. The story leaves audiences with a resonant sense of satisfaction. Having journeyed with Hannah from despair to independence, from trust broken to self-defined strength, her arc underscores a universal message. While pain may be unavoidable, it can catalyze transformation, leading to a life built on authenticity, courage, and empowerment rather than dependency or fear. By the resolution, Hannah stands fully realized, a testament to resilience and the enduring power of reclaiming one's narrative. In the soft, golden glow of her apartment, Hannah finally allows herself a moment of stillness. The room is tidy but warm, filled with the small, personal touches she has curated since reclaiming her life books, stacked neatly, photographs of meaningful experiences, plants thriving on the windowsill. On the table before her lies a wedding invitation she never attended, the one that had once symbolized her hopes, dreams, and ultimate heartbreak. For a long time, she avoided it, fearing the flood of memories it would bring. Now, she picks it up, tracing the elegant lettering with her fingers, and lets herself smile faintly. The smile is neither hollow nor forced. It is quiet, introspective, a gentle acknowledgement of her journey. Hannah reflects on the emotional roller coaster of the past months, the shock, humiliation, and betrayal that had initially seemed insurmountable. She remembers the public gaze, the whispered judgments, and the inner turmoil that accompanied Jason's abandonment. Yet, sitting in the serene privacy of her apartment, the weight she carried feels lighter. The external pressures that once loomed so large have diminished in significance, replaced by the internal clarity she has nurtured. The audience feels the shift along with her, from chaos to calm, from vulnerability to measured strength. This moment of quiet reflection is essential because it allows Hannah and the audience to process the journey fully, appreciating the transformation not through grand gestures but through the subtleties of self-possession, inner peace, and a newfound perspective on life, love, and trust. Hannah reaches for her journal, an intimate space where she has chronicled both her despair and her gradual recovery. She opens the leather-bound book and begins to write, the words flowing with clarity and purpose. I thought losing him meant losing myself, but I found me instead. The act of writing itself is symbolic, a ritual that marks the end of one chapter and the conscious beginning of another. Each word is imbued with ownership of her narrative, her choices, and her identity. The journal becomes a mirror reflecting her evolution. The girl who once depended on love to define her worth has emerged as a woman grounded in self-awareness and autonomy. Hannah pauses, reading the words aloud softly to herself, letting them sink in. The room feels suffused with quiet triumph, as though her inner voice has reclaimed authority over her life. This symbolic closure resonates with the audience because it transforms what could have been a story solely of heartbreak into one of reclamation and growth. It underscores the central theme that empowerment arises not from vengeance or external validation, but from the deliberate act of reclaiming one's own story, values, and dignity. By choosing reflection over retaliation, Hannah demonstrates that the ultimate victory is internal. She has not merely survived the betrayal. She has emerged stronger, wiser, and more self-assured, embodying the very essence of resilience. As the evening light softens, Hannah leans back in her chair, closing the journal with a sense of calm completion. Outside her apartment, life moves forward, indifferent yet promising, hinting at new experiences and opportunities. A supportive friend knocks lightly at the door, offering warmth and companionship, a reminder that genuine connections remain in her life. Perhaps a new chapter of romance awaits, though the focus is not on love but on her empowerment. The narrative emphasizes that Hannah's strength and self-definition exist independently of any partner. She is whole, resilient, and capable. In this final emotional beat, the public humiliation she endured transforms into private strength. What once wounded her deeply now serves as the foundation for growth, reflection, and dignity. The audience experiences catharsis, the sense of justice achieved not through retribution, but through Hannah's personal triumph, and hope for her future, shaped by awareness and self-respect. The story closes on a note of gentle optimism, leaving readers with a lasting impression of a protagonist who has navigated betrayal, heartbreak, and social scrutiny only to emerge empowered and self-realized. Her journey reassures the audience that even amidst profound loss, resilience and self-discovery can yield a life richer, fuller, and more authentic than what was lost. In this quiet, reflective moment, Hannah embodies closure, strength, and the promise of new beginnings.